Hello YouTube, Redhead Takes here. Weekly picks video. We are now at week 15, almost near the playoffs, only a couple of weeks to go. Packers still somehow have a chance to get in. I don't know how likely it is, but damn it, if they have a chance to get in, I'm going to cheer for them to get in, because tanking, as I've always said, is for losers. Only a loser organization willingly says, I will not compete, I will rest my starters and go for a better draft pick, because that does nothing for your confidence for your team for next year. But let's get into the picks right away. And first of all, we have the 49ers versus the Seahawks. I think the 49ers are going to win this game, especially for the Seahawks if Kenneth Walker doesn't play. Their offense looked disjointed last week against the Panthers. I don't know how they lost to the Panthers last week. Actually, I do know. Kenneth Walker wasn't playing. 49ers just dismantled the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from top to bottom. Brock Purdy looks like he'll be a very serviceable quarterback in there, just being put into situations where he can succeed and not put into situations where he's going to fail. And he shined through after getting killed. After nearly getting killed on the first couple of plays, his sack, he hung in there and got back to it and kept going. And you gotta give him props to it, because it's way more sympathetic to cheer for him than it was for Tom Brady, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's a divisional game, so it should be close. But I'm going to go with the 49ers on this one. Also selfishly, because it would help the Packers if the Seahawks lose. But yeah, 49ers in a close one. Yeah. Next we have the Indianapolis Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings in a weird matchup, to be sure. Indy on a bye last week. Minnesota for the 5th straight game, giving up over 400 yards, this time to the Detroit Lions, who have been one of the best offensive teams this year. But it's a rivalry game that Minnesota couldn't afford to lose. They're just falling down the standings. I mean, they're still going to be the 2nd or 3rd seed, but back a couple weeks ago when they still had a chance to maybe get the 1st if Philly lost, now chances of that are very slim. But Indy, I mean, if they give the ball to Jonathan Taylor a lot more, they have a chance to win. And the Vikings just have to be more consistent. I mean, their defense needs to get better, but I don't think there's any answers for that. I think the Vikings win, but it should probably be a lot closer than it normally is, because I didn't pick the Colts, so that's usually what happens. And next we have the Baltimore Ravens versus the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be a hard game to pick, honestly. Baltimore, probably without Lamar Jackson again. Tyler Huntley probably won't play, so honestly I have no idea who their next quarterback is. The Browns, losing to Cincinnati last week, and it didn't look all that close. Deshaun Watson has looked really rusty, but he hasn't played for 2 years, so what do you expect? And again, Deshaun Watson, innocent until proven guilty. Stop throwing him down and calling him a villain just because he allegedly did something terrible. If it finds out that he did something terrible, fine. He's guilty. But until then, he's innocent. So, I'm really sick of that. But, boy, returning to the football field, Baltimore, I don't know, Baltimore probably has enough to beat the Browns. I mean, especially if J.K. Dobbins plays like he did last week, coming off after being injured for so long. I mean, wow. Especially if you held on to him for fantasy. He looks like he could be a really good start the rest of the year. But, oh boy, this is a toss-up, to be honest. They always play each other close, and nobody has the definite edge, but I'll go with the Ravens. Next, we have the once highly expected matchup of Miami versus the Bills, now looking not so good. The Bills winning last week against the Jets in that rainy, wet, or snowy storm. And Dolphins losing in embarrassing fashion to the Chargers. The Chargers are missing 6 starters on defense, and they made Tua look foolish. I think he started out like 3 for 17. That's awful. He did get that one deep touchdown to Tyreek Hill, but it's just kind of embarrassing how badly they lost last week. And the Bills are getting better, getting stronger. Their offense is getting more consistent. Their defense has been able to maintain most of what they had, even with the missing of Von Miller for the rest of the year. Yeah, I think the Bills win this one. It's in Buffalo this time. Hopefully Josh Allen doesn't get kicked in the balls at the end of the game like happened in the first game, which caused them to have a 15-yard penalty. And as a result, we all know they lost in surprising fashion. But Miami is kind of fallen. I mean, now Tyreek Hill looks like their only weapon, to be honest. But yeah, Bills win in a close game. Next, we have the Falcons versus the Saints. Falcons look to be debuting quarterback Desmond Ridder. It's probably about time. I mean, they gave Marcus Mariota way more time than he probably should have. And, of course, they send him in to the Superdome against the Saints defense, which can be very good at times. The game before, against the Buccaneers, they had him. Then they fucked everything up, and I don't want to talk about it, but Saints coming off a bye, I think the Saints win this game and really take a big step to knocking the Falcons out of playoff contention. I mean, I think Ridder has promise. I just don't see him having enough to win in his first game in such a tough environment, in such a big rivalry game. But it should be close. I'm not going to shit on Ridder. I think he's one of the quarterbacks drafted from last year, or from this year, that really have some decent promise. But Saints win in a close one, and probably comes down to the end. But that defense for the Saints would probably give them the edge over the Falcons against the rookie quarterback in his first start. Good game, though. Next, we have the Steelers and the Panthers. Steelers losing last week to the Ravens. Their offense kind of fell apart when Kenny Pickett went out early. And then the Panthers winning in surprising fashion to the Seahawks. Like I said, Seahawks were missing Kenneth Walker, so their offense was all disjointed. But that Panthers defense at the end of the game, I mean, they did win, but that scoring touchdown for the Seahawks was one of the worst defensive plays I've ever seen in my life. The Panthers completely gave up on it and just gave the Seahawks a win, or gave them a touchdown, even though the Seahawks didn't get the onside kick. That was just terrible defense, and they just gave up, and the coaches should be really pissed at their players for that. It's awful. But yeah, the Steelers, it's unclear if Kenny Pickett will play this week, if he'll be able to get past the concussion protocol, and Trubisky is just had 3 interceptions last week and prevented any chance of them from winning, even though it was really close at the end. But I think, I don't know, it's a toss-up, to be honest. I don't know who to pick. Let's just say the Panthers, just because they're on a hot streak, but it could go either way. Next, we have the Philadelphia Eagles and the Chicago Bears. Bears, again, coming off a bye. Philly coming off the absolute destruction of the Giants. Their Eagles offense just keeps chugging away. And they'll be getting Dallas Goedert back. I mean, I remember I made a video a couple weeks ago about Jalen Hurts not knowing what to do without his safety blanket, Dallas Goedert. And I was proven wrong. He was just fine. But it will definitely help, for sure, even more. Make that offense even more potent to have a big weapon like that out there. Bears losing in that fashion to the Packers before the bye week, and maybe they got a little healthier, but I think the Eagles win this one pretty handily. It's in Chicago, so maybe Chicago has some early early ups, but to be honest, I don't think the Bears are going to manage too much against the Eagles. Maybe Fields has a touchdown here and there, but I think this is one of those games where Fields throws a couple picks early and the Bears get out of it, and then they're just kind of throwing deep balls for the rest of the game trying to keep up, because I don't think the Eagles are going to have any trouble scoring on that Chicago defense. If they are, it's just another reason of the parity in the NFL. But yeah, Eagles win pretty big. Next we have the Chiefs and the Texans. Texans with the near surprising upset of the Cowboys last week. Once Dameon Pierce got injured, their chances of winning drastically went down. As you could see, their offense completely slowed down after he went out with his ankle sprain. So, unfortunately for fantasy owners like me, he probably won't be around for the playoffs, maybe in the last game. And the Chiefs getting up really big against the Broncos last week. I think it was 27-0. But then, all of a sudden, their defense decided not to play defense, and Russell Wilson had a bunch of touchdowns, and they got it to within a score. But then, Russell Wilson had his concussion, and they had that ugly knot on his head that was going around the internet, and they didn't have a chance to win. But yeah, the Texans, far be it from me to say they have a chance to upset, but I don't think it's going to happen. Especially without Dameon Pierce, that offense just doesn't look as good. It doesn't look or it looks even worse without him. So I think the Chiefs win. I think Mahomes bounces back nicely after the 3-pick game that he had second half last week, and I think the Chiefs win in a dominant fashion, to be honest. Next we have the Cowboys versus the Jags. Jaguars with the win over the Titans, after the Titans got up early and decided to stop giving the ball to Derrick Henry for some reason. Derrick Henry did have the fumble, so that didn't help, and then the Jags were kind of on and off after that, and then he fumbled again later, which is very uncharacteristic of Derrick Henry. He just doesn't lose a lot of fumbles. But yeah, the Jags, I think, have a decent chance to win this one, and the Cowboys, nearly losing to the Texans last week. It could surprisingly be a good game. I'm not going to pick the Jags to win. If the Cowboys nearly lose to two of the worst teams in the AFC South, but destroy the Colts and they play the Titans in Week 17, I believe, then it'll be, and again, another reason of the parity in the NFL. So the Jags and the Cowboys, I think it's going to be a sneaky good game. It's going to be close, just because Trevor Lawrence has been on fire lately, and Dak has thrown uncharacteristic interceptions the past couple weeks that made games closer than they should be, but that running attack should have a pretty good day against the Jags, but I like it to be a lot closer than people would think, but Cowboys win. Next we have the Lions and the Jets. I think the Jets win this one. Okay, I don't want to say that. I think the Lions offense will do fine, but I think the Jets defense will have a pretty good game. Hopefully, for the Jets' sake, Mike White is healthy, because their offense moves a lot better with him at under the quarterback spot. I think the Lions have a decent chance to win, but they need to be able to protect Jared Goff, or the the Jets are going to eat them alive all day long. I think it's going to be a really close game for most of the game. I think the Lions have a real chance to win and really put the screws to the Jets for any chance of the playoffs. I think this would probably knock the Jets out of the playoff chase, but I think the Jets win in a close one, but Lions definitely have the chance to get the win. Next we have the Cardinals versus the Broncos. Broncos look to not be, or probably won't be having Russell Wilson this week. And again, the tragic injury to Kyler Murray. That knee injury is you just hate to see that. But it's just another thing that happens with run-first quarterbacks. There's they're running on a string until they get injured in a big way, and then their mobility is gone and their game shrinks quite a bit. But again, this is like an ultimate toss-up game. Yeah, it really is. I don't know who's starting for the Broncos. I'm pretty sure Russell Wilson's not going to start. But that defense is so good. I think I'll give it to the Broncos, but only just because their defense is so good. But this is such a toss-up game in every way. Next we have the Patriots and the Raiders. Again, another toss-up game. Patriots will be without Ramondre Stevenson probably. Raiders coming off that embarrassing loss to the Rams in the last two drives last Thursday night. The Raiders are just a miserable organization. Devontae will probably get his yards. The Patriots, I mean, they struggled to move the ball after Ramondre got there at first, but they have a couple of decent rookie running backs that should fill in nicely. I think the Patriots win. But, I mean, it's probably going to be a lot closer than it should just because of Devontae Adams. But the Raiders did not move the ball at all well in the second half last week. And the Patriots defense looked pretty good. So, Patriots win, but it should be close. Next, we have the Titans versus the Chargers. Titans looking to bounce back big after 3 straight losses. Chargers with the uncharacteristic win against the Miami Dolphins after everybody expected their defense to be terrible. Their defense looked pretty good last week. Even though they're missing 6 starters, they look pretty great. They really put the screws to Tua. And the Titans just embarrassingly losing the way they did last week after getting up early. Derrick Henry had over 120 yards and a touchdown early in the second quarter, and then they don't give it to him, which doesn't make any sense. But I think Derrick Henry will get back to what he was, or will continue what he started last week, and Titans just give him the ball and he'll probably win. I think the Chargers have a decent... It's probably going to be a good game. I'm not counting the Chargers out, but I think the Titans win in bounce-back fashion after losing 3 straight. Next, we have the Bengals and the Bucs. Of course, this is a game that Tampa Bay gets at home. Of course, they always get home games against good teams. It's the weirdest thing in NFL. Why does it always happen? But Cincinnati winning last week against the Browns. Losing Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins' injury. Unsure about their status for this week, but it would be huge for them if they're playing, of course. But Jamar Chase is such a weapon. I think they'll be fine. Burrow's been able to find other weapons even when some of his wide receivers have been out, and they've been able to win. So they won most of their games when Jamar Chase was out. So I'm not going to put it past them to win this game. Honestly, I think they win. And Tampa Bay just looked terrible last week. There's a really bad team that's going to come out of the NFC South to be in the playoffs. It's probably going to be Tampa Bay, but they're probably going to be 2 or 3 games under 500, to be honest. And it's just disgraceful. I hate the way the NFL is set up that way, that a team under 500 can make the playoffs, but there's going to be teams probably above 500 that miss out because they're not in such a shitty division. But yeah, I think Bengals win. Probably be close just because Tom Brady likes to play up in these games, but I think he was shaken last week. Last week was not a good game for him. And next we have the Giants and the Commies. Commies coming off a bye. Giants have to get absolutely destroyed last week. I like this game to be close like it was a couple weeks ago when it ended in a tie. Both teams are pretty evenly matched. For the Packers' sake, the team that has the hardest schedule going forward will be better if they won. And honestly, both teams have pretty difficult schedules for the remainder of the year. I think I'm going to pick the Commies to win. I picked them last time and they just lost just because they ran out of time, or they couldn't get that one last touchdown drive going. But Yeah, I think it'll be close. Probably come down to the wire because these teams are both evenly matched, but the Commies win. And last but not least, the Green Bay Packers play the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football. Packers have 15-day bye. Not a big fan of that, but it is what it is. Rams coming off with that amazing win last Thursday night against the hapless Raiders. Should be should be a decent game. Baker Mayfield has had a couple more days to learn the playbook. He should be fine, but Cooper Kupp again won't be back yet. Who knows if Aaron Donald plays, and Packers looking to make a miraculous run to the playoffs. It seems like Dobbs will play, so now we'll get to see, for the first time this year, what a really good-looking Christian Watson looks like with a healthy Romeo Dobbs on the other side, and we'll see. I think it's going to be really great. I think that's going to be a great combination for the Packers for years to come. This game probably closer than many people think. I think Packers defense will hopefully be a little more improved after their win against the Bears, where they probably shouldn't have won, but hopefully Jair Alexander has a better game. I think I like the Packers. It's in Lambeau. If Packers don't win, they're out of the playoffs, so if they can't beat the Rams, then all is lost. And then we'll go to the Jordan Love show, but Packers win. And there you have it. A little longer video this week because it's a 16-week schedule. If you were keeping track, last week I went 9-4 in picks. And yeah, not a bad week. Well, let's see if we can do even better this week. Lots of good games this week as always. Probably going to be ridiculous results and absolutely insane outcomes that no one could see possible. And yeah, another week of football. Week 15. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Trying to make Rumble and locals more effective for me. Trying to get away from big tech as much as possible. So hit me up there. And see, I don't have my Twitter back. Who knows when I'll get that back with the amnesty program. But yeah, should be a good week of football. And as always, have a great day. Go Pack Go. And God bless.